Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining CFNC's. Congratulations, you graduated. Now what's next with your student loans? I would like to say congratulations to the class of 2021. I'm gonna give you a whole Boy Scout hand clap. I know it's a very exciting time for you, but we want you to be prepared in all areas so that when it's time for your loans to go into repayment, that you will understand your rights and your responsibilities. My name is Soretta Broadway, and I am the CFNC Regional Representative for the 919 area code. I do have my colleagues with me this afternoon, and I'm going to just give you their names and of course, well, no, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves in the order in which they are listed on this slide.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tamika Ruffin. I am one of the CFNC representatives also, and I cover the 704 kind of area code. So Mecklenburg and surrounding counties is my region, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Watts. I'm the 828 East Regional Rep for CFNC.org, and I'm happy to be here helping out with today's presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to Soretta.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. We also have some other colleagues on the line, and they will be probably assisting us with any questions that you have as we go along. But again, we do ask that you remain muted and put your questions in our chat box so that we can entertain those as we go along. And if they get too hefty, of course, we would definitely entertain those before we get off of the line. So let's talk about the basics of student loans. As we all know, but I want to reemphasize, loans unfortunately do have to be repaid, which is why we encourage you, if you're going to be going on to grad school or what have you, only borrow what you absolutely need, because that will have to be paid back with interest. So you're going to be paying back a little bit more than what you borrowed, of course, if you don't pay all that interest off before it goes into repayment. And not only that, all of the interest that has accrued through the years while you were enrolled in school will be capitalized, and it will be added on to the principal amount of money in which you borrow. So what you are charged for using someone else's money is that interest, and that capitalization takes place as well. There are two different types of student loans for our students. We have the William D. Ford Federal Direct Stafford loan and the subsidized loan is a particular one based upon the results from your FAFSA form, which allowed you to get a need-based loan. The subsidized is need-based. And the advantage of the need-based loan is that the government paid the interest for you while you were enrolled in school. They will also continue to pay the interest during your grace period. As you can see here, there was no credit check on this particular type of loan, and you signed a master promissory note before being given that particular loan. But as long as you remained in school at least half time, and if you decide to go on to grad school, your loans will continue, the interest will be continued to be paid by the federal government with the subsidized loan. Now, the unsubsidized, the direct unsubsidized loan under that Stafford loan program is the exact opposite. It's a non-need-based loan where the government doesn't pay the interest for the student while they're enrolled in school. It actually accrues. Does it mean that you had to pay it while you were enrolled in school? That was optional, but that interest is added up through the years. And prior to that loan going into repayment, that interest is going to be added on, which is that capitalization that we were talking about on the previous slide. So it will be added to the principal. Again, with that Stafford loan program, there was no credit check. And you didn't have to have any credit, shall I say, but you did sign a master promissory note stating that you would pay these monies back in the future. Okay. Types of federal loans. We have the Parent Plus loans, and this is the parent's debt that they've taken on, even though it was taken out on behalf of the student, but it is the parent's responsibility to pay the parent's loan. And there was a credit check that was done with the Parent Plus loan. It's not a need base. The interest began accruing as soon as the monies were completely disseminated to the college or university on your behalf, and the parents, of course, they signed a promissory note as well. We also have the graduate or the professional loans. This is a not need-based, but students must, of course, still file that free application for federal student aid, better known as the FAFSA form. And it's for students who are going to graduate school. Parent borrows on behalf of dependent undergraduate students at least half time. Again, it must be repaid. You see, we have it in all caps. It must be repaid. And again, you must sign a master promissory note for this type of loan to be approved, just like all of the others. Private student loans. Sometimes we don't receive enough monies through the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program through the federal government to cover all of the costs. We don't receive enough grant money. We may not receive enough scholarship money to cover the cost. So we need some additional monies to help bridge that gap. So therefore, a private student loan may sometimes be necessary. We do want private loans to absolutely be your last resort because they have different disclaimers attached to them. Private loans are offered by private lenders, and there are no federal forms to complete. So we talked about the federal student loans. Now we want to talk about the private. The state of North Carolina has a program called the NC Assist Loan that College Foundation Incorporated administers and services for the state of North Carolina. It's available to North Carolina residents and students who reside outside of North Carolina, but are attending an eligible nonprofit Title IV institution in the state of North Carolina. So there must be a North Carolina connection. There's no application fee, no origination fee, or prepayment fees whatsoever. The interest rate will be either a 5.50% or 5.25% interest rate, depending upon whether it is the NC Assist for the student or NC Assist for the parent. And of course, there is a 0.25% interest rate reduction if you set your account up for automatic draft once those loans go into repayment. No prepayment penalty. So you will have a minimum payment that needs to be made, but you can always send more than what the minimum payment is. We'll always be welcome to take your money to pay off that loan earlier so you can save yourself some interest. If you would like additional information about the NC Assist Loan Program, please visit ncassist.org. On this particular chart, we are allowing you to see what the loan limits are for dependent students, undergraduate students in college. If you would follow the chart across, we have our first year undergrad, which is our freshmen. The maximum they can borrow through the subsidized program is $3,500. The maximum they can borrow through the unsubsidized program is $2,000, and the maximum for the annual year is $5,500. Second year undergrad, who is our sophomore, subsidized amount limit is $4,500. Unsubsidized amount limit is $2,000 with a total of $6,500 for the annual academic year. Our third and fourth year undergrad, which is our junior or senior, the subsidized maximum is $5,500. The unsubsidized maximum is $2,000 with a total of $7,500, which is the annual amount in which a junior or senior can receive through that program. I want to bring your attention to the last paragraph. Aggregate limit for undergraduate dependent students is $31,000 with no more than $23,000 in the subsidized loan program. One cannot borrow more than the cost of attendance minus any other financial aid they will receive. So you may receive less than the annual maximum amounts. In a nutshell, the government does not want students to be bombarded with a great deal of loan debt once they graduate from school. So that is the reason why the loan limits have been set. Loan limits, independent students and dependent students whose parents are denied PLUS loans. Because parents have to go through a credit check, sometimes they may be denied because of derogatory credit or their credit to debt ratio is not matching. So therefore they're not, they have too much debt, not to say it's derogatory, but they just have too much debt compared to their income. So therefore they may be denied, which allows students to be eligible to receive additional monies in their name. Again, we're going to talk about our first year undergraduate in a situation such as that, or if the student is considered independent. The subsidized maximum for a freshman is $3,500. The unsubsidized amount is $6,000 with an annual amount of $9,500. A sophomore undergraduate subsidized maximum is $4,500, with the unsubsidized amount being a maximum of $6,000, totaling $10,500 being the annual limit for that academic year. A junior or senior undergraduate student's maximum would be $5,500 in subsidized monies, $7,000 in unsubsidized monies, with a maximum of $12,500 for that annual academic year. A graduate or professional student, they are not eligible for the subsidized loan, but they could receive up to $20,500 for the annual year in the unsubsidized program. Again, I will bring your attention to the last paragraph. Aggregate limit for undergraduate students is $57,500, with no more than $23,000 in the subsidized loan program. The aggregate limit for graduate and professional students is $138,500, with no more than $65,000 in subsidized loans. So in order to receive any of those loan programs that were mentioned, you will have to complete a master promissory note. It will give you your rights and responsibilities. You'll be able to find all of that detailed information. So it will not be in fine print, but it will explain what your rights and responsibilities will be with this particular loan that you are requesting and signing. It's a binding legal document that you sign. You're indicating and you're promising, that's why it's called a promissory note, that you're going to commit to repay your loans once you have signed that MPN. May be used for only 1 year at a time or as a multi-year note. It expires after 10 years, or if you declare bankruptcy or for other reasons. You can check with your lender for what those other reasons may be. You're going to also check with your loan servicer or your campus if you have any questions about the master promissory note. If you would like to get detailed information about the master promissory note, and of course, if you want to apply for a loan, you will go to studentaid.gov site, or you can download the app, My Student Aid, and it will allow you to see all of the loans that you have borrowed through the years since you're freshman all the way through your senior year, or if you're in graduate school or what have you. When you log in to your account, it's going to allow you to see the interest rate for each individual one and how much money you borrowed in the subsidized program versus the unsubsidized or what have you. But it will have each individual loan broken down for your convenience. I am now going to turn the mic over to my colleague, Ms. Tamika Ruffin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Soretta. And thank you guys again for joining. So most of you, that's kind of the basics of the loan programs. You should probably know some of that stuff already because you are graduating or about to graduate, or have recently have gone through this experience before. So just to kind of give you, it was kind of a general overview. Now we're going to talk a little bit about making sure you understand who your servicer is. So you heard Ms. Broadway mention a couple of times before about, contacting your loan servicer or your lender, and most people are not exactly sure who they are. So you took out the loans directly from that college or university, but the college or university is kind of like the portal to get that money to you. That money is actually coming from a loan servicer. And right now, most students who are in college at this point, your loan servicer is the Department of Education. But just to kind of clarify who your servicer is, so when you're paying back your student loans, you're not paying them back to the college, you're paying them back to who actually issued that money to the colleges on your behalf. So if you have questions about that, definitely when you go to the studentaid.gov website, you will see your loan servicer to be the Department of Education. So one of the things I wanted to mention to you, so initially your lender is going to be someone from the Department of Education. However, your loans can be transferred. And this is going to be something important to know. is that initially when you go onto the studentaid.gov website, you're going to see the Department of Ed, but they can actually sell your loans to lenders that they have chosen. So they have a lender list or a loan servicer list of people that have been vetted through the Department of Education and can actually service their loans for them. And so you may get a notice maybe in 6 months, a year, 2 years, depending on, whenever you have it, however long you have your loans, from someone saying that we actually have purchased your student loans. Now, I always do tell people to be sure that you do call back the Department of Education just to make sure that it was a legitimate email, however they communicate with you. But your loans can be transferred to different servicers. So just so we're clear on that, be sure that you are keeping track of that and going online to check that on a regular basis, because your lender may have changed. Now, the amount that you borrow will not change. The interest rate will not change. It will just change who you're actually paying the money back to. But initially, it will be with the Department of Education. So one of the things most people are kind of wondering about, of course, if you've graduated or about to graduate, you're wondering, when am I going to start getting loan repayment? If you have graduated many years ago, you probably know, but most students are getting their loan repayment information 6 months after they graduate. So that's when they start the actual repayment period. So they give you sort of 6 months to celebrate and kind of with your family and friends. And then after that, you'll start to get repayment information. Most of that information is going to be given to you online. So they'll either send you email notifications. If you kind of have it set up that way, they may send you a few paper ones at the beginning, but most people, you have the option to opt out of paper and you can just get all of that information online. So by kind of logging back onto the studentaid.gov website, you can kind of navigate all of that, but they will send you some papers at the beginning, letting you know who your servicer is, what your loan repayment amount is per month, and how to send in payments. But you will be able to, of course, change that at any time if you want to go paperless. But all of that will start 6 months after you graduate. And these are going to be the repayment options. So you graduated, you kind of start, initially they start everybody off on a standard repayment. And what I'm going to briefly do is kind of show you what your options are as far as repaying your student loans. This is kind of showing you all of them on one page. So you'll be able to see what they are, because you'll have different options. I wanted to kind of also make note of one thing up here. You'll see that these are the different types of loans that you can borrow. There's a program called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, which my colleague Skip is going to talk about in just a minute. But I wanted to make note before we start talking about these different repayment options, there are some of these repayment options that are not eligible for that program. So for these first first 4 repayment options that I'm going to talk about, they will not be eligible for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So pay attention to that as he's talking about the program and how it works. Just know that if you go into certain repayment options, you won't be eligible for the program. So just want to kind of make note of that. We're going to talk a little bit about those so you can understand what they are. The standard repayment is what everybody is set up on. So when you first start repaying loans, they're going to set them up to be paid off in 10 years. That's how they set up everybody. So that's the standard repayment. The minimum monthly payment is going to be $50, but they are going to set them up based on how much you borrowed, and so that it can be paid off in 10 years. So again, the minimum is $50. They want you to try to send in at least $50, but they're going to tell you what your loan payment will be based on how the total amount that you borrowed so that it can be paid off in 10 years. But that's the standard repayment, and that's how it's all going to start out for everybody. The graduate repayment is going to be an option that they'll give you. This one is sometimes one that people will choose. So again, you can contact your loan servicer for any of these repayment options just to see if you can go to another one besides the standard repayment, but this is one of those others. And how it starts is it starts out with lower payments and then it increases to larger payments towards the end. They do have it set off to be paid off in 10 years. So they have it to be paid up in 10 years, but if you're paying a very low amount at the beginning, just know they're definitely going to balloon as it gets closer to the end of those 10 years so that it can be paid off within that 10-year time period. But that will be an option that you can be given, especially if you're a new graduate, you're just starting out getting a job, you may not be able to afford whatever standard repayment amount that they've given you. So you may want to start out on a smaller amount and then increase it over the years. So the graduate repayment will be an option for you. The other option that they'll give you will be the extended repayment. And this one, it just extends the life of the loan for 25 years. So again, the standard repayment is 10 years. This extends it to 25 years. And obviously with it going to 25 years, that means your payments are going to be lower every month than they would be with the standard repayment. So this is an option that a lot of students may choose, especially it's only for students who have borrowed more than $30,000. So just know that if you have borrowed more than $30,000 and you call your loan servicer, this will definitely be one of those options that they are going to give you will be the extended repayment option, because it is just for borrowers who borrow more than $30,000. But it is a great way to be able to lower your payment. So they will give you this as an option as well. Obviously, you will pay more than the standard 10-year repayment because of the interest that's accruing on it, because now it's no longer 10 years, it's now 25 years that you're repaying this loan. And then the income-based repayment, this one is going to be based off of income. And so there's several of these, and I don't want you to get confused with these. There will be several different income-based repayment options that you're going to be given. All of them are going to require that you turn in your income information, because they're going to basically set up your payments based off of your income. So it's typically going to be at least 10 to 15% of your income. And they're going to recalculate it every year. So initially it will start out for the first year based off of your income for that year. And they do know that as you're starting out in the workforce, your income is hopefully going to go up over the years. So they're going to ask you for your income information for this payment plan every year so that they can readjust your payments. One of the good things about it, and why people sometimes choose it, is because after 25 years, depending on how much you've taken out, that whatever you have left over can be forgiven. So that's one of the pluses with some of these income-based repayments, is that if you have borrowed a large amount and you kind of stick to the plan that they have set up for you, you can have whatever's forgiven after 25 years. This one, they do like for people to put people in this particular plan who have a high debt in relation to your income. So I said, when you were in college, you got a lot of unnecessary credit cards. We all kind of have been there, right? You got a lot of debt that you didn't need. So right now you may have a lot of debt in relation to your income. They will try to set up your payments based on all of those factors. So this will be an option that you'll be given for that. This is another income repayment plan, not much different than the other one. Instead of them looking at just 10% of your kind of discretionary income, they'll be looking at 20% of your discretionary income. And then the other cool thing about this one, I guess, I won't say cool thing, but they are going to have it where you're paying it off in 12 years. So, you know, even though they are basing it off of your income, they're looking to see how much your income is. The hope is that they're setting up your payments so that they can be paid off in 12 years. This one can also be forgiven after 25 years. So again, another reason why people choose some of these income-based repayment plans, because you can have a portion forgiven after 20 to 25 years. This is the income-sensitive repayment. Again, another income payment plan. This one, and I'm going to pause and say this one, if you just graduated, your loans are again with the Department of Education. If you graduated prior to 2010 and you're on here, you were not a part of the program. You were a part of the FAILS program, which is a loan program that was there before the direct loan program took place. So if you took out loans before 2010, you are eligible for this repayment plan. If you just graduated within the last year to last couple of years, you're not eligible for this repayment plan, but I do want to mention it in case someone is on here that had loans prior to 2010. They do have a plan that's just for you, where they can have your loan set up to be paid off in 15 years instead of the standard 10 years. So again, that's an option for our FAIL people. And then this is another payment option that again is going to be given for everybody, whether or not you took out your loans before 2010 or now. This one is for people, again, based off of your income. The difference is, I know you're like, why do they keep having that? They're pretty much, they say the same thing. The difference is again, they're going to be looking at 10% of your income, but this one is really going to be set up so that it can be paid off. They're trying to get it paid off within a 10-year time span, but also you can have a portion of your loans forgiven. The other plans, it had to be 25 years. This one, a portion of your loans can be forgiven after 20 years. So this is another payment plan option that some of you may want to look at. Again, they're going to look at your family income every year. They're going to look at your family size every year, because they know that can make a difference in how much discretionary income you have left over, depending on how many children or how many dependents you have in your household. This is another good option that you'll be given to do that. They did revise that program that I just showed you a few years ago. And one of the reasons why they revised it is because they wanted to have an option. So let's say that you decide to go to graduate school. They do have it, will be the same thing where they're going to look at your income and make payments off of your income. The difference is that after 20 years, your undergraduate loans can be forgiven. But if you went to graduate school and you took out loans while you were in graduate school, it will be 25 years before your graduate school loans are forgiven. So that was the only kind of revision that was was given to this payment plan. Again, you're probably from some of these payment plans, if you're interested in them, again, you'll talk to your loan servicer, but also do make sure that you understand if they let you know how much more interest, if that's a concern for you, how much more interest will I have to pay for them, because a lot of these will probably extend the life of the loan, but they're very helpful for people to be able to get assistance on making monthly loan payments. So at this time, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Skip, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about forgiveness programs. We get asked a lot about how can I just have my loans forgiven, or is there some assistance for that? And so Skip is going to talk to you a little bit about what your options are for loan forgiveness.
Great. Thank you, Tamika. And thank you, Soretta. Great information. My name is Skip Watts. Again, I'm the 828 East Regional Rep for CFNC.org. And let me encourage you to put questions in the chat. We've covered some really dense and complex topics today, and I know some questions have to be stirring in your head. So feel free to post those in the chat. We have professionals there to assist with any questions or inquiries you want to post. But again, my name's Skip. I'm here to talk about federal loan consolidation. And before I get to that, I was noticing one thing, Tamika. Every one of your slides had a different acronym on it. And I think pretty much the same for Soretta as well. So one theme with the financial aid world is we have to learn the vocabulary. And sometimes we might even need a glossary. If you ever need any of that information, you can always go to CFNC.org, where you can find a glossary of all these financial aid acronyms that we use. Now let's talk about federal loan consolidation. Basically, federal loan consolidation is an opportunity where you can consolidate several different loans into one federal program. Those could be private and those could be federal programs. It's got an extended repayment of up to 30 years based on your loan balance. It's one monthly payment, so you're not going to have to pay multiple lenders each month. You can prepay or change payment plans. It's at a fixed interest rate, which is great. If you have multiple loans out there, they might have different interest rates, and that can get confusing and complex. So by consolidating, you can get one fixed interest rate that varies from year to year. So you'll want to check in on that. It could be a loss of eligibility for certain deferment, forgiveness, cancellation, or grace period benefits. And it could be a loss of some borrower benefits that you might previously have had with your other lender. Now, another acronym that we're going to talk about is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or the PSLF. PSLF was employed by the U.S. federal, state, local, and tribal governments. Basically an opportunity for people that work, again, at the federal, state, local, or tribal area to have some opportunities for loan forgiveness. If you work full-time in one of those agencies or organizations, you can inquire about your opportunities with the PSLF. You have to have direct loans or consolidate other federal loans into a direct loan. You have to repay your loans under an income-driven repayment plan, and you have to make 120 qualifying payments for PSLF. Now, if you want more resources on PSLF, you can go to studentaid.gov/managed loans. And from there, you'll be able to find everything you'll need to know about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Plan. You can also contact your lender or your loan servicer and inquire there about PSLF, or you can contact the HR department at the place of your employment, and you may be able to get some valuable information about your eligibility from those individuals. Now, some other public loan forgiveness options, or just loan forgiveness options in general, start with the Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program. That's for students that have direct Stafford loans, and it was for individuals whose first loan, again, was made after October 1988. If you teach in a qualifying low-income school for 5 consecutive years, you're eligible for up to $17,500 in loan forgiveness, and that could be as low as $5,000. It just kind of depends on your situation. A program that's near and dear to my heart with regards to loan forgiveness options is the North Carolina Forgivable Education Loan for Service, or FELS. FELS is awesome if you want to work in education or healthcare in North Carolina. Essentially, the state will help you pay for your education under the assumption that you work within that specific field post-graduation. There are GPA major and institutional contingents, and you have to go to CFNC/FELS to find out any more information, and also to find the application. Now, the next slide will have some of the specific programs that can be used within the FELS program, or the Forgivable Education Loan for Service. You can see here there's all kinds of allied health programs. There's also some education programs, but they're limited as compared to the allied health programs. For example, if you're wanting to take advantage of FELS and you're working in education, you really need to be in elementary or K through 6. You need to be working with exceptional children, possibly at the elementary level. middle grades because that's a tough spot to fill. And FELS really is to fill critical needs areas in North Carolina, and we desperately need more middle grades teachers. And as far as secondary education, we need more math, biology, physics, and chemistry teachers. So there are some specifics, and if you want to look into those, definitely go to cfnc.org. Now, here's some more programs that FELS will help you pay or help pay for your school with. If you want to be any kind of medical doctorate in North Carolina, FELS can help. It can also work with dentists, it can work in nursing programs. And again, there's a whole bunch of different elementary opportunities as well. One note to keep in the back of your mind, though, with FELS, every year you take FELS funding, students, you're going to be obligated to work within North Carolina, within that field of study post-graduation. So if, assuming I took 2 years of FELS funding to get my bachelor's degree in middle grades education, well, then I would be expected to work in North Carolina as a middle grades educator for 2 years to pay back the state. If I fail to work as a middle grades educator post-graduation, this turns into a loan at 10% from the date of dispersal. So I think FELS is a wonderful program, but I just want to make sure that students interested in taking advantage of these programs are aware that you have to work within that field post-graduation. Okay, some other possible options. For health career forgiveness, you can also talk to your hospital, or maybe your state might have some possible options for you to get some repayment possibilities. There's also the National Guard and the AmeriCorps program. Oftentimes, if you participate in either of those two organizations, you might have some repayment options. And then sometimes, if you're lucky enough, your employer might also help you pay for your education. So don't ever hesitate to talk to your HR department about that, and just put that inquiry out there. Now, as far as deferment goes, this is a term you're going to hear as you start to get into the student loan repayment process. Deferment is specifically a time period when repayment is temporarily suspended. A deferment period may be granted for at least half-time enrollment at an eligible school, a graduate fellowship, a rehabilitation program, unemployment, economic hardship, military service, and these deferments apply to loans made on or after July 1st, 1993. If you have a loan made before that date, you're going to check your promissory note for specifics on deferment. Now, another term you may hear as you approach this whole student loan repayment process is forbearance. And forbearance is when you're unable to make your scheduled payment, but you don't qualify for a deferment. Forbearance allows you to reduce the amount of your payments or possibly temporarily stop your payments. Most forbearance is discretionary. It's up to your lender or your servicer to allow you a forbearance or a deferment. Now, as far as delinquency and default goes, when you fail to make your payment on time, you are delinquent in meeting your obligation in regards to a student loan. When you fail to make your payments for 270 days, you'll be in default of your student loan, and there's serious consequences if you're in default on your student loan. Obviously, it can damage your credit if you default from your student loan. You can be referred to a collection agency. Collection costs are added to your debt. The federal government can actually garnish your salary if you fail to make those student loan payments. So keep that in the back of your mind, students. Every dollar we borrow from the direct Stafford loan program or the federal John D. Ford program, we have to pay back with interest. Federal or state tax refunds, Social Security benefits, all of that can be withheld as well. Civil lawsuits can be filed against you. You can, again, lose your deferment, forbearance opportunities. You can lose any repayment flexibility, and you might also lose eligibility for further financial aid for future education programs that you might want to participate in. So the last and maybe most impactful of these is they can also suspend your professional license. So please, students, every dollar you borrow, be mindful that we have to pay back. Now, as far as loan cancellation goes, this happens rarely. You can get your loan canceled if you die or if you become totally or permanently disabled. Sometimes, in rare circumstances, if your school closes while you're enrolled, you may be eligible for loan cancellation. This actually happened to a program in Charlotte recently. If your loan was falsely certified as a result of identity theft, you may be eligible for cancellation. I've never seen that happen, but it is a possibility. And then if your school falsely certified or fraudulently completed a loan application in your name without your approval, you may be eligible for loan cancellation. But it doesn't happen often, students. So don't prepare for cancellation. Just prepare to pay those loans back. Now, if you're having trouble repaying your student loans, there's a lot of resources for you to reach out to for assistance. So first, you want to contact your loan servicer. You may be able to reduce your monthly payment if you qualify for one of those alternative repayment schedules. You may also be able to temporarily postpone your payments if you qualify for deferment or if you qualify for forbearance. So again, remember those two terms because they may come into play in the future as you make your student loan payments. Now, here's some helpful tips, okay? Keep your loan records organized, okay? If you're like me and you're kind of an unorganized, frenzy type mindset, you're gonna need to sit down and maybe make a file with all your loan records, or maybe make a file on your desktop that you can quickly access every time you get on your computer. You want to keep track of those loan records on studentaid.gov, as both Soretta and Tamika mentioned. You want to know how much your loan payments will be, okay? If your loan servicer possibly will send you a repayment schedule, and you can kind of figure it out there or at studentaid.gov. You need to remember to create a monthly budget, and within that budget, have a place for your student loans. Remember, students, you have to pay these loans back. And then your direct loan servicer will also offer you the standard repayment plan and provide you information about other repayment plans if needed. So definitely ask your servicer if you need any of those types of resources. Now, additional resources start with studentaid.gov. I know Soretta and Tamika and myself have both alluded to studentaid.gov several times. If I were a current college graduate that just recently graduated, I'd have that saved as one of my favorites on my desktop. So I could go there frequently. Every time I had a question, I could quickly get some resources that might help me find answers. CFNC.org, my employer, is also a great resource. I alluded to the fact we have a financial aid glossary. We also have all kinds of information about the FAFSA and general financial aid resources, including scholarship information. If you want to check into the NC Assist, which is the North Carolina specific student loan program, you can go to ncassist.org, and there's some valuable information there as well. Now, as far as the CARES Act go, many of you might have heard this recently during the pandemic. Essentially, the CARES Act does have some aspects that affect student loan repayment. So if you just graduated, currently under the CARES Act, student loan repayment has been suspended since March 20th, 2020. I'm not 100% sure how long that's going to last. I have a feeling maybe in September that'll be pulled back. But right now, because of the CARES Act, there is some flexibility for students that are experiencing financial hardships. So again, take advantage of that. And if you need to find that information, it again is on studentaid.gov. Now, you can always stay in the know by connecting with CFNC or NC Assist or studentaid.gov by following us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Not only does CFNC have an organizational page, but there's also individual representative pages. So if you really want to follow Tamika because you're from the Charlotte metro area and she has valuable information on her Facebook and Instagram, you can find her at Tamika at CFNC on Instagram or Facebook. The same would be true with Soretta and all the other reps for CFNC across the state. Now, if you have any questions, again, I ask that you put those in the chat. You can also contact us with general financial aid questions or repayment questions at 866-866-CFNC. You can call us 8 to 6 Monday through Thursday and 8 to 5 on Friday. We have representatives available to answer your questions, so don't hesitate to contact us. Again, you can also post your questions in the chat box, and hopefully we can find some resolution to those inquiries in the next few minutes. So I'm not seeing a lot of questions right now in the chat box, but I'm going to wait for a few minutes and ask that my colleagues jump in if you guys want to say anything to finish out. Again, everybody, thank you for attending today. Please don't hesitate to ask for assistance from CFNC in the future if necessary.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining today. And again, remember to always contact your loan servicer. They are there to help you. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
And when in doubt, contact us at our toll-free number. If something sounds too good to be true, please double check. And we'll definitely, if we don't know the answer, we'll definitely look into it for you. So utilize all of your resources and of course, CFNC.org. I do believe that we have answered all of the questions thus far in the chat, but if there's a question that you have not had an opportunity to ask as of yet, please feel free to place that in the chat box. And thank you so much, Anna and Eric and Zaria, I do believe.
Yeah, Zaria.
Zaria, yes, thank you so much for everyone attending and taking time out of your afternoon to spend with us to find out what's next with those student loans. All right. Well, you all have a wonderful afternoon and thank you again for attending.